life till lager. No life till lager.
Welcome to No Life Till Lager, a show about lager beer, the brewers who make it, and we that drink it. This is a conversation between two people over one pint. My name is Adam Zuniga. I'm a failed master Cicerone. I'm part of the creative team behind the Six Most Metal Breweries and Beer Like in Das Movie. And my guest today is Josh Brengle. He is the head brewer at Compañia Cervecera Hércules. That is in the city of Querétaro, central Mexico. Cheers and thank you and welcome, Josh.
No, thanks. I'm flattered and stoked to be here. First of all, cheers. Thanks for having me.
We are stoked and thankful to have you. We are on the same continent, but this is a first for No Life Till Lager from a different country. We are so grateful to have you join from Mexico and give your perspective on lager beer and craft beer and how Cervecera Hércules kind of fits within this dialogue locally, regionally, nationally, internationally. It's a really exciting moment for us. So thank you again for joining.
Cool, yeah. And I'm glad you said continent too, same continent, because you'd be surprised how many people in the States say South America when referring to Mexico or even sometimes Central America. But yeah, we're definitely North America. So.
Yeah, I would say now more than ever, it's important to remember that we are on the same continent. And a beer is what helps bring us together and cross those borders or any perceived divide. So we're going to talk more and more about how beer looks south of the border and from your perspective to the north. But first, tell me a little bit about what we're drinking. So I saved these cans, and I have to give a shout out to Nick Sanchez at Humble Sea for holding on to their 9th anniversary collaboration with you. It is Humble Sea's 9th anniversary Lewis Raceway dry hopped Italian Pils, clocking in at 4.9% alcohol. It definitely smells dry hopped. Tell me a little bit about the beer in my hand and how the collaboration came to be.
Well, I got to reach back into the archives here because we planned this like late last year, I think. We had a few collabs planned in California, one with Ism and another one with Humble Sea. So I think we actually made the beer in February. So it's been a little bit, but I do remember we talked about several different lager styles for their anniversary. They were sure they wanted to make a lager with us. That's kind of one of the things with Hercules where I'm at now. We make plenty of different styles, but I think in the beer world, our lagers tend to resonate with people a little more than anything else. So when another brewery comes over or when we do something else, like with another brewery in the States or in Europe or wherever, it tends to the conversation is always like talking about lager. So we end up always making lager, and I'm totally cool with that, by the way.
I love it.
But yeah, we haven't really made a lot of Italian Pils over the years. We've experimented around like a lot of the different, lager styles that you can, and even styles within styles, like regional differences between Helles, like the country Helles, let's say, and a Munich style Helles, we kind of, and then everything in between. So we always mess around there, putting our own spin on things. But I would say with them, the Italian Pils thing came up and I was like, yes, let's do it, because it's one of those styles we just don't have so much experience with. So it's a blend of hop varieties. If you give me a minute, I'll check which ones they were. I actually forget, but
I have.
It says it on there.
It's Callista and Tango, which is a really interesting choice. Pronounced aroma, pronounced a flavor. In the most simplest terms, Italian Pilsner is dry hop Pilsner with what would be considered German noble style hops, usually being used in a more unconventional way, like not so much for bittering as for aroma and flavor. But you chose two modern German hops that don't have those classic noble qualities. They're much more tropical, fruit forward. Mm-hmm. It really shows. And whatever magic you all did in the brew house, the hops haven't oxidized at all. it still is really vibrant. It's still extremely refreshing. It's still a Pilsner and the hops aren't beating you over the head, but it's noticeably different and it's still fresh. So job well done to you,
Cool, I
Josh,
appreciate that.
to you, Nick at Humble Sea. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they have a great team there, and you know when we were there for the brew day, you know they definitely pay attention to the details, which in a beer like that you have to. So, and we were stoked to do something with Calista Tango, you know, kind of some of the newer, you know, Bavarian varieties that are coming out and over the last few years, and for us, like with the whole West Coast Pills craze, which those are great too. Like I don't discriminate too hard on any beer style, but I love those. But
Yeah.
it's hard to find the pills sometimes in those categories. And the idea was to also, you know, make a beer with New World hops that still tastes like a pills in a way. You know, so
I love it.
like, I'm taking your word for it because I haven't tried it. So
yeah, and it sounds like you will coming up. But again, you know, part of why we started this podcast was because we missed the flavor of malt, but lager can be such a great showcase for hop flavor as well. And you succeeded here. It's a really beautiful, vibrant beer. Tell me what you have in your hands before we move on.
Right now I'm drinking our export Helles, which is called Gold Hütte, which just means like golden hats in German. But we don't make it that often, so when we do, it's just it's like if you want to picture like somewhere in between like a Helles and a Fest beer maybe. So maybe like 5.6, 5.7% alcohol. So it just tastes like a Helles. It just has a little more alcohol and a little more body maybe. So it's really nice.
Well, if brewed for export at some point, I hope I will get to try it. I don't know if you all, do you distribute export at all outside of Mexico to the United States or no such luck? Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, we do like work with Disney World. Unfortunately, not your Disney, but the Disney in Orlando, or not Orlando. It's Lake Buena Vista. But anyway, technicalities that Florida. I'm from Florida, so like that's things that we always say. People are like, "Yeah, Disney's in Florida." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's outside it." But whatever. And so we send some beer to Disney. We send also like we'll send a container. Disney takes a big part of that for their Epcot. You know, we're in the Mexico part of Epcot, and we move a decent amount of beer there. And we also, you know, we have a distributor there that we work with that sends some beer throughout the state. So it's not a ton. Honestly, we're just so far from meeting current demand here in Mexico that, I mean, good problems to have. We just haven't been able to facilitate that. But yeah, we do have interested people in California for sure. Texas, you know, conversations are there. Just trying to get the beer out. But for anyone listening in California, we'll be at the Firestone Walker Invitational next month. So hopefully you guys can stop by the booth and try some beers.
So much to look forward to. And like you said, good problems to have. And we'll say Disney in Florida is truly the happiest place on earth as a result. You said you're from Florida. Let's talk a little bit about you, kind of your past before we get up to present and look toward the future. Just tell us a little bit about who you are as a human being, as a human doing before you became a human brewing. What's your story? What are some of the other jobs you had, and what ultimately led you to turn this passion into a profession? Tell us about you, Josh.
Yeah, so like I you know, before professional brewing, I was home brewing a lot, which obviously that's a really common story. I had several jobs. You know, I worked. I like cut lawns. Like I was doing that when I was a teenager, trying to make money, buy records and stuff. You know, I love music, so I was playing in like punk rock and heavy metal bands. You know, around that time.
Another common theme to most brewers I talk to, and something you and I definitely have in common. And well, that is excellent.
For sure.
Worth mowing the lawn. Good taste in music, good taste in beer seem to go hand in hand. What else?
Yeah, so I had a few jobs. Worked at a chocolate factory, like I was like, I don't know, doing shipping and receiving there. And through that job, I also worked at Burger King for a little bit, like when I was 16 or whatever. Like, I don't know, dude. I was just all over the place and doing whatever I could to like make a buck in this crazy late stage capitalist society.
Yeah.
But so through FedEx or through that chocolate factory job, I was working shipping and receiving. I got a job at FedEx and ended up working there. And that was the time I really got into homebrewing. I worked with a guy at FedEx that he was doing like all extract kit homebrewing, like not even adding hops. It was like pre-hopped extract. So just like all you need is a stove. I don't even think he was like, I don't remember all the details, but this is like 20 something years ago now. But anyway, he kind of showed me, like, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And he kind of showed me what was up. I had a friend that had joined the Navy, and he said, like, I have all this stuff, and I have this Mr. Beer kit I've never used. If you want to take it. So I was like 19 years old, making like some god awful concoctions in my parents' house, just like, just got out of high school. And I was also really into skateboarding. So I was all my skateboarding buddies, we'd get done for the day and they'd come back to my house and drink this stuff and probably be like, I don't know, man. At the time, I guess it was passable. Like, I don't think it was like that bad. I think in retrospect, I was pitching enough yeast to make sure that there's no like contamination issues, but I would say the rest was pretty subpar at best. So anyway, like I did that for a while into my 20s. I'm like driving trailers at FedEx, like 18-wheelers and stuff, and doing this home brewing thing. And I don't know, I had my best friend at the time pushed me into like all grain. He's like, why don't we just see what this is about? We're kind of also getting older at the time, and we're trying these beers, which in Florida and the early aughts, there weren't like a ton of choices, let's say, but we would try anything we could find or get our hands on. And when we did find something, kind of cool or worth it, did kind of inspire us. So, there was like a point where we did step up, start doing like all grain brewing. I'm like rambling here, but
not at all.
But yeah, but it was cool and there wasn't that much information available. There were books, and you did have like it just wasn't like a thing that had blown up yet. And the internet was around, obviously, but it wasn't like there's just a lot of bad information everywhere. So like I kind of leveled up and got into all grain brewing, and then I just like really got obsessed with it. I think if I hadn't done that and I kept doing this extract stuff, I just would have quit. But I think what I really needed was the challenge, and that kind of challenged me and opened me up to like way more beer styles that I knew existed. So traveling to Europe, throughout those years and trying to find as many beers as I could and learn as much as I could about those classic styles and also newer ones too. And got really involved in the homebrew club, so I'm like this kid, I guess I'm like 23, 24, something like that. And I'm just totally all in and judging and doing all that stuff that homebrewers do. And I love my hobby. And I was like, I don't want to ruin this hobby. So I worked part-time at some brew pubs a little bit in Florida. There wasn't a lot going on around that time in Florida, let's say, like, well, maybe in California and places like Oregon and Colorado, and maybe a little bit in the Northeast and Midwest, there was some stuff happening, but Florida didn't have anything going until, let's say 2008, 2009. So worked at some brew pubs. At that time, I ended up like winning this Florida Brewer of the Year award for my homebrewing stuff. And I guess I had some friends that at this new brewery that just started called Cigar City. So I had already decided I don't want to work in this industry. It's like too stressful. Everyone I know knew in it at the time, it's like, don't ruin your hobby. You're doing great,
Yeah.
Just keep, I went to school. I had like an anthropology degree. So I was like thinking about what's next. And Cigar City called me up soon after they opened, and they're like, we saw you won this thing. We tried your beers at festivals. I kind of knew these guys a little bit, and they're like, do you want to come here and be a brewer? And they had like I hadn't seen hype like that before in any Florida brewery or any brewery really in the Southeast,
Hmm.
because they just came on the scene, and it was like you just got to see how far the ceiling was on like demand and beer geekiness and all that. Like they just really were able to create and harvest that demand. I think long lines, those were the days. So like I was like thinking about it. I'm like, so I'm going to take this job, like earning half of what I'm making right now, and I'm going to
Hmm.
work the night shift. And everyone's telling me not to do it, and I ended up being like, screw it. I have to see what's on the other side of this door.
It's awesome.
And if I can always go back to whatever I was doing before, it's fine. But so I jumped ship, uh, ditched my real job, working third shift at Cigar City, and then yeah, worked my way up there pretty quick. We were just growing so fast, so I ended up becoming lead brewer and then production manager pretty quick for a guy with limited professional experience. And I was just hungry for it. I really wanted it, and I felt like it was my calling in a way. Like it was something that felt like I was pretty good at, and uh, quick to adapt and learn, which you kind of have to be. And not only that, I always say like those, I don't know, from 2008, 2009 until like 2016 maybe. If you were in the beer industry, you just earn exponential experience, just because most of those breweries were growing so fast and way too fast, honestly. But yeah, that's
Um,
kind of, yeah.
so congratulations all around. Much agreed all around. It's good to have friends that are willing to drink your mediocre homebrew. And I've heard that every step of the way from basically everyone that's been on No Life Till Lager.
Yeah.
But I knew that you had Cigar City in your background. It's so exciting to think about. First of all, just yes, those years when like craft beer
Yeah.
was still kind of young and fledgling in the US, even though it had been like established and the roots were decades prior.
Yeah.
Those years of rapid growth and expansion when it still felt so new and so fresh were so exciting. And it's incredible to think of when Cigar City was new. I mean, I remember when, God, how do you say it? Jai, what's the
Yeah.
IPA? The claim to fame.
Highlight.
Highlight.
Highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when that hit New York City. I mean, Cigar City was known and loved, and I didn't know that you were such a big part of it. Did you ever cross paths with Eddie Torres while you were there?
Yeah. Yeah. He came on, forget which year, but he did like South Florida sales for us. So yeah, I don't stay in touch with him too often. Like we just don't cross paths, but yeah, we worked together for some years. He's a cool guy for sure.
Yes, small world. Shout out to Eddie, host of the RRBG
Yeah.
podcast. I think I've been on that one, so if you haven't done it yet, by all means, join Eddie for an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a cool podcast. I listen occasionally. It's cool.
yeah. Again, recurring themes across the board, but what a small world it is, and we're never more
Yeah.
than 1 degree separation apart. So I'm really glad to know Cigar City is part of your story. And were you born and raised in Florida?
Yeah, so I kind of skipped over. I went kind of straight to the beer stuff, but like, yeah. So I was born in Tampa, grew up in Orlando. Went to, everything from middle school, high school there, um, just north of Orlando. So like, when Cigar City called me, that was another, part of the equation was I couldn't just like quit my job and work there. I had to move back to Tampa,
Hmm.
which was like it was a big decision at the time, being like 20-something-year-old kid. So like when I did that, I had to move back over there, and I lived there until 2016 when I moved to Mexico. So
Hmm.
um,
And
that
did
was the
that
year I yeah.
Well, that's why I asked just how. So now we know our brewer and we want to get to know our brewery, but how did you make the leap from Florida to Mexico? Was it with the job at Hercules? Just what led you from A to B to C and where you are as of today?
Yeah. So like when I was at Cigar City, I was, uh, mostly, well, yeah, I was running the plant and with Madison, who was my boss at the time. Um, and I was tasked with a lot of the malt procurement and like, we had an invitation every year to go up to Canada where our malt supplier was based, Canada Malting, in Alberta. So we'd go up there and the first year I went, Um, I got there a few days early because they had like this thing where you could go explore Banff and like the Canadian Rockies and all that, which is just, if anyone listening hasn't been, it's just really freaking cool. And
Nice.
we had a group up there of brewers, industry people, and we were just drinking tons of beers and hanging out every day. And yeah, I met this girl from Mexico City who ended up becoming my wife. You know, she was working for Constellation Brands at the time in procurement. So
Congratulations.
yeah.
There
So
was a
like,
happy ending to this ongoing story. That's wonderful. Congratulations.
yeah. So you know, we were, you know, dating internationally because she would travel to the US a lot. So I'd meet her up in whatever city she was in, you know, at the time. And I would also travel to Mexico City often. And, you know, we were just dating and then found out we were pregnant, you know, and then next thing you know, yeah, I had to make a move. And I honestly, you know, full transparency, I was also, you know, considering moving out of the country. You know, I had a good friend of mine started the first craft brewery in Vietnam, so I was kind of thinking about that, and
Wow.
or thinking about at least getting out of Florida. You know, but so it was like a natural type thing, but it just maybe expedited that move, and where I was going to move to, it kind of decided for me in a way. But yeah, I was ready to kind of get out of the States maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah, so it was time, and it was cool. So I came here. I didn't really know any Spanish. Looked for a job everywhere. You know, there's not so many breweries in this country, Mexico. I mean, so like I sent my resume everywhere. I was like, well, I'm a, you know, the big Cigar City dude, so someone's gonna hire me. Like, no, I didn't get that response, and I was kind of losing hope and thinking like, well, I'm just gonna have to work in a different industry or do something else. And Luis, who's the owner here at Hercules, you know, they were really small at the time. He somehow uh, got my resume in his hands and called me up, and the rest is kind of history. You know.
Yeah. I think we'll say maybe lager transcends most languages, but I really wasn't sure if you had Mexico in your past, if you were part Mexican, part Hispanic, where you grew up, where you're from, and kind of what led you to the here and now. So that's just amazing. Let me tell you what I know about Hercules, and then maybe you can tell everyone listening what else, like what we don't know. But I think it was founded in 2011. It's named after a textile factory and a working class neighborhood that kind of rose around this classic statue of Hercules, son of Zeus, very striking. It's now a 40-room hotel that offers live music. There's 3 restaurants, including a bar and beer garden. And I want to understand the full scope of your operation as well. There's also an Almacen that's it's more in like the central city. That's a general store and a beer garden in its own right. And I think you have 2 more tap rooms in Mexico City as well. There's a lager bar, which is strictly lagers, no hype. And then there's a Tienda de Cerveza Hercules, which is some hype, but still lagers. And
Mm-hmm.
let me know if I'm getting the full extent of this. Just like, who is Hercules? How did it begin? And how
Mm-hmm.
has it grown to the point that your paths align to be what I think is now, you could call it a regional craft brewery or just a regional brewery in the country of Mexico. So, what did I get right? What did I get wrong? And what else should we know about Hercules?
No, all that's pretty much correct. Well, yeah, all of that is correct, I should say. I think emphasizing some points, maybe the when you come here, the hotel is a thing, but I would say most people are coming here for the beer garden experience. So we
Hmm.
have like a 1,400 person beer garden. Um, and yeah, it is an ex textile plant. You know, the textile plant ran from like the 1840s. It's the second, I think, I think it's the second oldest textile plant in all of Latin America, and it was like the one of the biggest in the top 3 biggest of its day as well. I mean, plenty of Mexican presidents have been here over the years, and they built the railroad that goes all the way to the United States. You know, because that's where the cotton was coming from at the time, all the way from the U.S. to here. You know, because of this plant. So like
Wow.
that railway is still used to move things back and forth from Mexico City and even further south, even from Guatemala, all the way to um, the U.S. border in Texas. So before that, it was. I mean, this place even has like pre-Hispanic roots. So before textile plant, it was a convent. Before that, it was a mill owned by some of the indigenous families here in the area that are. If you're from here, you might know they're kind of famous. So um, and yeah, there's still a pre-Hispanic aqueduct that you can see here, on site. Um, so yeah, I think the historical part, and like I said, I was an anthropology major, so like
Yeah.
all of that stuff is what really grabbed me here, even more than the other possibilities of brewing and all that. I was just super stoked on everything that this place had to offer. Um,
The
and
I just
then
have to say
yeah,
that real quick, the history and the setting is like one of the most visually stunning sights I've ever seen for a brewery. It's just so well curated, so
yeah,
artistic, so creative, so tasteful in the way you project yourself to the world.
mhm.
It almost looks like a movie set. It has to be one of the most stunning sights I've ever seen for a brewery. Is all the brewing actually done at the hotel site, or do you have a production brewery, as mentioned, kind of closer to downtown Guarataro, to the city center? Where is all the brewing done?
So yeah, the actual brewery, the beer garden, and the hotel, and everything in between, is all here on one site. In the
Okay.
neighborhood of Hercules, which is like just outside of Querétaro. It's 10-minute walk or 15-minute walk to what is called Querétaro. So we're technically in the city, but it's in another neighborhood called Hercules. Downtown we have like you said, the Almacen, which is like our general store, and then we have another bar in South Central Querétaro, and then we're opening up uh, possibly a new place downtown. So that yeah, and then we, like you said, we have Lager Bar, and then the Tienda in Mexico City, and we're opening up a new one in Guadalajara also. So um, it's a country with some extreme taxation as far as alcohol goes. So
Ah,
it's really the only way to like get ahead is to just open up your own tide houses and do that. I mean that's the way it's worked for centuries, I think, in parts of Europe. So
yeah.
it works here too. Just trying to also control the history, the narrative. Try to have like your own people there running things, and you know getting the freshest beer in all these locations as you can. But yeah, I think um, it's just a fascinating place. It is one of those places where full honesty. Also, like when I was looking into where to go, Luis had kind of sent me an offer, and I looked at where Querétaro was because I was living in Mexico City, and I said, "Man, it's like 3 hours away. I can't work there." That's what I'm thinking at least. And I ended
Yeah.
up getting on a bus one day when I first moved here. I came out here just to see what it was all about. And I was completely floored. I was like, "Man, this is just fascinating." Um, and it didn't really have the beer garden yet. The hotel, there was no hotel. I mean, there was nothing that you kind of see in the photos today was
Ah.
but I just saw the historical relevance, and also like the 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 overall like footprint that they had, and like the ideas they had. And Luis was super ambitious, and still is. And then part of what you see online is, we have a great social media team, Diego, and his team really just knock it out of the park with the imagery, trying to just showcase what the place is about. So
It's just stunning.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
we can debate, as like what's projected on social media, does it always reflect the reality? But from this distance, it looks like you've created a space where I want to live and work and drink. I mean, it's just so striking, and so
yeah,
rich in history. So,
yeah,
to you, to everything you've created, and did you mention, like, I don't know, the owner or the founder, was it Luis?
yeah, Luis, yeah,
Is that the so Luis Raceway? I'll show the can here.
yeah,
Is that a
yeah,
reference? So the Humble Sea
yeah,
collab is named for him, essentially. And another fun
yeah.
fact: you can actually pull this sticker right off the
Oh, cool.
label. So
That's
collect
awesome.
them all. Yeah, I'll say again, happy anniversary, Humble Sea. But that's just amazing. And your reference to tied houses, you're basically saying that brewing companies across Mexico, they all own their own bars. they all own their own pubs. And does that apply to the big guys and the little guys as well, to
Oh, no,
breweries of all
no, no.
sizes?
No, I think that's just in our case, and some of there's other breweries that have that same type of model or are starting to adapt to that. But at least when I moved here, a lot of the model was, just the distribution model, the get the beer out, and the big guys are all, let's say the Corona Modelo guys, which is ABI and Constellation, or Heineken for the other guys, which are Dos Equis and all that. I don't think they have any. They might sponsor, like if you have a restaurant, they'll come in with money and just make sure you're exclusive with them, and they'll
Yeah.
buy you a bunch of POS stuff, and so the place looks cool. But
Here again, we're not
yeah,
that different, my friend, from one country to
no,
the next, and you know this well.
yeah,
Another
for sure,
recurring theme on this show: the breweries that are finding success are creating pubs or multiple tap rooms as a
yeah,
destination to serve their community, and that's also how they're making money and continuing to grow in the process, rather than chasing national distribution.
sure. Yeah, I think it's the U.S. revival of that, old concept is what made us, remember that. And when we had maybe hard times, in distribution or whatever, like let's just distribute less, and let's just, take care of our margins and try to um, put the customer first. Everyone wins. I mean, like
Yeah.
we have a little bit, um, I think, like an assurance towards fresher beer. We can just check all the boxes and give the customer better experience, and also, we can maybe try to make a little more money in a country that, let's be honest, it's super difficult to run a brewery in.
Yeah. I want to hear more about that. Like when we speak to craft cerveza in Mexico, is that the word? Like, do you distinguish yourselves as a craft brewery among others? I am really curious. Like, is it still kind of like a young and fledgling industry in that respect compared to the United States, or is it well established when you're looking for it? Just tell us a little bit about craft beer, craft breweries in Mexico. How are they distinguished from everyone who you just mentioned, like the whole like Constellation,
Yeah.
Reyes, kind of Corona Modelo, kind of those powerhouses? Just what does craft brewing look like in Mexico?
Yeah, so super, in general, I would say super small. Even the plant sizes down here are quite small, just because, you know, yeah, like if you have money and you're trying to get into this, I mean, you could say the same in the U.S., but at least for some time, and especially these days, that it's not the business to get in if you want to get rich. Here, it's definitely not, just because it's so highly regulated, and it's also very heavily taxed. So we do use the word in Spanish. We'd say artisanal beer. So
Yeah,
cerveza artesanal
nice.
is the way we would say it or explain it to people. And most people, especially, so breaking it down a little further, the closer you are to the U.S., probably the more advanced the brewery is going to be, and maybe a little bit better in general. Beer could be better, let's say. So like the breweries that are up near uh, Tijuana area, like just south of San Diego, and maybe the breweries that are just south of Texas and Monterey, like you might see in general better quality beer in those types of areas. Guadalajara is also a pretty decent beer city as well for Mexican craft beer. But I would say, like, most of the time, if you're traveling and you see craft beer from the Mexican perspective, it's like artisanal obviously doesn't mean the same as craft. It doesn't directly translate the same. It can, but I think you think of something just super small and handmade when you say
Yeah,
artisanal. Like,
yeah,
like maybe you think of that when you say craft also, but I guess for me, like most people, unfortunately, I think in this country don't associate craft with quality. Um, so it's a harder sell here, maybe, like is a good way to put it. And most people also are oblivious or don't know that their favorite brewery, like whether it's Corona or whatever, or their favorite beer is not owned by Mexicans anymore. So like
Yeah.
there's a pretty big PR campaign to keep that, pretty quiet when that stuff did happen back in the day, when those acquisitions did go down. So like the typical mindset might be, well, why would I pay this many pesos for a beer that's, artisanal and I can't, or craft, and I can't guarantee any quality on it. I know what Corona tastes like, and that costs like 4 times less.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with the safe bet. So there is
Again,
yeah, go ahead.
not to interrupt, I will
Yeah.
keep emphasizing we are more alike than not, and I think both the trends and the ebb and flow that you're seeing in Mexico are what's happening in the States now. Craft beer is not as closely associated with quality, maybe as it was in the years that you and I both were kind of growing up or coming up within it, just because it's not quite as popular as it is right now. So it's not moving quite as quickly. So the perception is it might not be as fresh or high quality, and it is more
Sure.
expensive. So that's something that craft brewers are up against.
That,
And on that
that's a good
same note,
point.
kind of not understanding that something positioned as the great American lager might not be a great American lager or an American lager at all anymore, truth be
Yeah,
told,
for sure,
and
for
we
sure.
can argue, I mean, how much that really matters or not, but it's a similar perspective from a customer point of view. So I think craft brewers are kind of up against much against this, much against the same, much of the same in both the U.S. and in Mexico, which is really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's similar. Maybe there's nuance there. The I would say the inherent poverty here in Mexico. It is like 60+%.
Mm.
Low level income. So a lot of people don't have that opportunity, or can't. And that's one of our goals as a company, is to make craft beer, affordable to everyone,
It's
and
wonderful.
try to make sure that people that live here in this neighborhood and in this state and also in this country, that they could figure out. And I think that's also Luis's like mindset. Like he's always mentioned that he wants to be like the new Glarus of Querétaro. Like just be the beer that everyone thinks about when you say Querétaro. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you're from or how much money you make. Like you say, yeah, we drink this. So like a landmark, a social land, or sorry, I would say like yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to explain, but yeah, something
I
that when
get
you
it.
say, yeah,
I get it, and I love it. I mean, that's probably why New Glarus hasn't had to venture really that far out of Wisconsin, I think, where it is,
sure,
because again, they serve and support their community. They make their beer as affordable and accessible and high quality as they possibly can to its surrounding environment, and it's self-sustaining and supported back, which is a
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful thing, and again, a good model for what would be considered trying, challenging times. Um, can I
yeah.
ask, like, on that note, just looking north, like crossing the border back over, I mean, do you feel that America is still kind of like the industry leader, call it craft beer, microbrewery, small batch beer, artisanal beer, whatever we name it? Like, do you feel like you look to the States to kind of follow the example, or the trends that inform what you're doing at home, or is that not necessarily the case right now?
Maybe, yeah, for guidance, I think it's there. I mean, I have to say, like times suck for breweries right now, but there's never been a better time to be a beer drinker. Like
I
you can
agree.
go, yeah, you can walk down to your local, and I know what you're saying about shelf life stuff, or like maybe it's moving slower, but
Yeah.
about packaged beer, let's say, but I would say, like, when you're talking about the ubiquity of breweries, and the just the sheer amount of beer that you can have access to, and styles that are, if you know where to shop, and your local breweries, let's say, you can easily have just amazing beer experiences every day of your life if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, I think we look towards the U.S. It's just there's so many data points there. I mean, there's so many breweries doing different things, and now, because of podcasts like your own, and the internet in general, and we have access to just so much information to see how things can work and what didn't work. And Mexico's I mean, some styles maybe don't work here, like maybe in this part of Mexico. It's also a very regional country. There's just like the U.S. You know, people have their tastes and their customs in every part that are different.
Sure.
So for us, you know, I think we, at least personally, you know, talking about myself, you know, I try to always look at what's happening in other parts of the world and see if we can learn something. Is there a lesson there, or was that just a one-time thing? You know, because
Yeah.
probably there's a new beer style that just is killing it in a certain part of the world right now, or in the U.S. that maybe the people just aren't ready for here, or just don't like. So
Yeah. That is a holistic approach and an international view to brewing that informs you. That's excellent. Can I also ask? So you said Hercules. So you're about 3 hours north of Mexico City and maybe 90 minutes away from San Miguel. Does that sound about right? So I've landed in Mexico City. I've traveled to San Miguel. I so
yeah,
regret that I didn't know you were stop along the way. You know, but you've given
yeah,
me every reason to come back at this point. But the reason I ask is for the country as a whole, but also regionally. And this came up a lot in the episode with Chris at Figueroa Mountain, just like talking about Mexican lager as a style in its own right. Is that how you regard it? Like a corn-based lager, do you consider that kind of local and specific to Mexico, or is that a little bit talking about again being on the
well,
same continent? But is that kind of like a U.S. or a northern North American approach to Mexican style lager? Tell us, please.
man, it's a super tricky thing to get around, just because it's very complex. You know, all the Mexicans will say down here, like, any lager made in Mexico is a Mexican lager. So
Sure.
if we made like a Czech style pills down here, it's still like a Mexican. I think that's just a cop out, maybe sometimes to not answer the question. But
Yeah.
I do think, you know, like if you look at, I mean, just look at the big guys. Forget, you know, craft beer exists, and you go like, okay, what happens when you have like Pacifico, and then you have Bohemia pills, which is like very aggressively hopped. I forget how many pounds per barrel go in that thing on the hot side, but
Hmm.
someone once told me that had that information or worked there. Um, it's an insanely highly hopped beer. So like, both are considered on at least in our market to be, you know, national lagers, Mexican lagers.
Yeah.
So there's just a huge amount of I would say like stylistic, you know, stylistic intent, you know, can be one way or another, I guess. So like, from the way I see it, you know, and also corn is a thing, but the corn that people know Mexican lagers for is most likely, you know, either a type of syrup, or it could be. I know all those breweries do have capability for cereal cooking and for mash cooking, but
Mhm.
I know based on market price of corn versus syrup, they might go one way or the other, based on what's needed or what's better for margin that year. So, um, and
Interesting.
then and then also rice is like a big component too. Like some of your favorite Mexican lagers might actually have rice
Yeah.
instead of corn.
Yeah.
So, but if you wheel that back to like the craft world, you know, we are in a country with 10,000 different corn varieties. You know, you can go make yourself crazy just trying to experiment with as many as you can. Um, and but yeah, it's a hard thing for me to define living here, just because for me it's I guess it's such a broad style. You know, I think what people want, you know, when they say Mexican lager, or when you say it, people are looking at Tecate, Pacifico, and maybe Corona and a few others. Is kind of like the if I'm a U.S. brewery and I put that on the board, there's kind of an expectation at the tap room then by the client,
It's
you know.
true. Yeah.
And if you throw out like I mentioned, bulimia pills, they might be like, wow, this is good, but this is really hoppy. And I don't know if I identify this as a Mexican lager. So one thing is like what it is. Another thing is how it's identified and how, um, yeah, I mean, that's just like with any product in the world, like, so like we have our own ideas about Chinese food, but maybe, again, there it's very regional
Yeah.
so it just, I guess I'm not really answering your question, but like,
No,
it's like,
you are actually like across the board. It's just not that it's not that simple. It's much more complicated. I think what
yeah,
you're doing, what Hercules is doing, I mean, it just challenges definitely challenges like the American perspective of Mexican beer and the American idea of what a Mexican lager is. I think it's a
yeah,
great thing that you said, a client, a customer, a consumer will often just go to the bar or go to the store and have this idea that they just want like a Mexican beer. They just want like a Mexican lager. And because of that, for various reasons, we will see like Modelo outpacing Budweiser in the United States now. It's really interesting.
sure.
It is also perceived as like an import product, higher quality, higher value. These are all good things. But I love that you're kind of challenging the idea of what that is and what it can be. And you're right. I've seen that you brew with corn. I've seen that you also brew with Morelos rice.
Mhm.
Did I read that the brewery, do you actually plant and harvest your own corn variety to use in your beer, to use on the menu and recipes for food offerings? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we do have, and by the way, based on your comment, just now, I totally agree. In America, we love everything to compartmentalize everything, and everything fits into its box.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Mexican lager. I mean, hence why we have BJCP, and in the food world, we have other organizations that are guidelines towards what is this more or less the stereotype, and you have to always take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But I
Very
totally
true.
agree, and
Yeah.
it's just in our culture somehow.
It's the
But I think,
opposite of like a Belgian approach to beer, for example. Yes, we like to
yeah,
have rules and boundaries and definition. I
mhm,
mean, again, talking to someone that's worked their way through Cicerone and BJCP and
sure,
all of it, and you know better than any of us as a brewer. Yes, that is the American mentality and how we like to operate. And it can be useful and
sure,
it can be helpful. It can also be limiting.
mhm, yeah.
But yeah, do you
Yeah,
work with?
I used to be like that a lot, or I used to think of things like that constantly, and now I think I'm definitely have like a little bit more of a European mindset, where it's like talk about Franconian beer. It's like, well, I don't know, it's just the lager we make. Like it doesn't fit
Yeah,
into always it doesn't always fit into like into a category super easily. So I think yeah, it's just easier that way to think about things when you're not thinking about competitions all the time, or like figuring out where things fit. It does help the consumer though, so I realize that. So we try to be honest
yeah.
when yeah,
You are right that, I guess, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but whether we're talking about music or beer or art or however someone chooses to express themselves, why ever they choose to do it, why ever they're drawn to doing it that way, it is a little bit strange to ask someone, well, why do you do this? Why do you do it? How do you do it? Why do you ask someone to explain themselves when they're so obviously like compelled to do it out of love, out of passion, out of interest? So yeah, it's typically for someone else that we have to give it these parameters and these boundaries to
yeah,
understand it for ourselves. So no, it's really
yeah,
fascinating. It's a different approach, it's a different way of thinking, and I love that this particular idea and expression of Mexican lager has gained traction in the States. You will see it on every craft brewery's board almost across the board now, and that's
yeah,
not a bad thing, to take a corn-based lager and have it as a regular offering. But it can also be limiting. When I look at just the sheer like variety of beers you have at any given moment, and I mean, help me work through
like
this as
way
to,
too many.
is it ways, so you are
Yeah,
the head brewer, but you essentially you function as like a production manager, like you were doing
yeah,
at Cigar City as well, correct?
yeah, yeah. But we have a really great team. We have several different managers. I have like an assistant head brewer, Stefano, that he does a lot of the wort production. We
Nice.
have Emilio, who is a little bit kind of like more like a plant manager, lead brewer, kind of making sure that everything gets done, scheduling, procurement, a lot of that stuff. And we have like a cellar manager, packaging manager, maintenance manager, and QA manager. So like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, we kind of have some structure similar to like a bigger U.S. brewery, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're somehow heading in the right direction. Hopefully.
I love it. I mean, here's to you and
Yeah.
your team, and it
Yeah.
shows that you are built and structured to produce more beer, because I see a Czech pills that you can enjoy poured the three traditional ways at your lager bar, for example, through a Luker faucet, the Maliko, Snite, and Ladinka. But I see a Czech dark lager, a super lager, which I think I understand is a Keller beer, brewed with Morelos rice, a Vienna lager, a German Leichtbier, Schwarzbier, Munich Dunkel, Helles Export, and Heller Bock. And the beauty of all those is that they're under 5%, so they are meant to drink. And
Yeah.
except for what the Helles Export and the Heller Bock might climb above. But this
Yeah.
is one part of Hercules and not the whole, right? I see a variety of British, American, Belgian, Scotch, and Irish ales. And we have to give a shout out to your Pueblito Irish Export Stout at 6.5% alcohol, because it won World Beer Cup Gold in 2024. And I've seen the celebration video. So many, many congratulations. Just tell us a little bit. Yeah. What is considered, and here is another distinctly, you can argue it's an American way of thinking, or but just in
Yeah.
terms of like core versus seasonal, can you tell us which of these beers you brew year round, which of these beers you brew on a more limited basis, and how do all of them kind of come to make up, again, like Compañia Cervecera
Sure.
Hercules, if I'm saying that even close to correct?
It's close enough. No, you're doing great. No,
I hope so.
there's like I would say like basically I created a monster. Like so like when I first moved here and started running production, I came on as a consultant actually, but within a few months I was offered the just run the brewery. So once I did that or accepted that role, my first job among many was like I want to see what people in this region like to drink. You guys built this giant beer garden recently. I want to try to understand what people like. So let's just make like a ton of different styles. And we had just commissioned. I think we commissioned a pilot plant. Soon after that, so we were able to just crank out all these different styles.
Nice.
Some of them didn't work. Some of them were, in my mind, great beers, but just didn't sell here. Some of them were okay beers or stylistically okay, but people loved them. And other beers, complete overlap with maybe your local brewery or bar in California. Like they just worked
Sure.
across the board. So like I would say like we just started making like 100 or over 100 styles per year, and a lot of those had significant demand. So we've been trying to wean ourselves off that many brews, just because it's very difficult to keep track of all that yeast, different yeast strains, let's say, and raw materials coming from Europe, from other parts of the world. It's definitely difficult. So like we have 8 like core brands right now. So most of them are lagers, but we have an IPA, a pale ale, and I'm missing one. Oh, a brown ale. Brown ale down here never died. In fact, it's like it was our number one seller until like a year or two ago, and now it's like number 2 or 3. But people love brown ale for some reason. I don't get it. Like, but it's just a thing. I get it might be due to the fact that Negro Modelo and Bohemia Dark, Bohemia Vienna, they call it now, and maybe you could tie in Victoria there and Montejo and a few others. Do have significant popularity still, so it could be that. So then we have like seasonals, quite a few seasonals. Then we do one thing that rubbed off in my Cigar City days were just an asinine amount of collabs. So just we just do like I don't know because I think we started doing them, because I wanted this place to gain awareness, so I started inviting friends down, and I'd go back to the US quite often. So I'd be like, hey, while I'm there, you want to do something? And so that was maybe the reason why that we headed in that direction. But now we're just kind of like addicted to it because it's fun, and you always get to learn from other breweries, what people are doing on all aspects of their business and inside their plant. So like I'm always I love being proven wrong. I love having my ideas and then you showing me a beer and saying, well, they do it this way. And I'm like, wow, my mind just got, I love, someone showing me something new that they did, it doesn't matter if it's in the plant or outside the plant. I love all that. So, and then we also have a wild beer program. We have a clean barrel aged program too. We do a lot of spawn beers, and spawn blends. We're in wine country, so we do a lot of work with pumice, with uh, grape must, and also with finished wine. So we work around a lot of that stuff. We try to use some Mexican ingredients on the wild side, like Mexican cherries. They're like capullinas. So we make like a Mexican creek with that, So around like I would say, I'm probably missing some of the stuff that we do, but I would say around like just all of Europe and the US, just that beer flavored beer category. We're just trying to hit everything. I think there's some beers we're focused on lagers more than anything, but we do like to experiment. We do have a robust team, so we're able to kind of go out and have the bandwidth to work on other styles that are not specifically lager, let's say. But our goal is just to have, with the climate here and with have people be able to sit down with their families, have a few pints and a few liters of beer, and like really enjoy it and prove that we can at least on a quality basis compete with the big guys and give you a consistent product and kind of dispel some of those ideas that people might have, about what craft beer is to them, just a weird thing that you make in small batches, so like, which there's great beer down here. I'm not saying that, but maybe in this part of Mexico, and I have to give a shout out to Cuatro Palos Brewing and Punto Medio, that we happen to be in a city that would not geographically be known for good beer, but we have 3 really good breweries here in Querétaro. So anyone who wants to come visit one day, we're surrounded by pretty good beer.
It's clearly a destination for beer and food in its own right. Two things you said. So first of all, I guess is it the climate as well as say the competition from like Constellation, from Modelo, Corona, Dos Equis, from those brands that kind of led Hercules to be a little more lager focused, lager led, to the point of opening a lager bar, a devoted lager bar in Mexico City? Is it kind of the climate and the competition, the expectation from customers that kind of led you to head in that direction?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think I think in the U.S. Not all the time, but many times I see more of like a conventional war against them. Going out after tap handles and trying to fight the fight. Bar by bar and distributor, working with the distributor and working with smaller retailers, working with supermarkets. All that off-premise stuff too is important. Yeah. Here, you're just never going to even get close to. You just can't. So like I think here it's more like a guerrilla war. We're not going to fight them directly ever. And that's why we have tied houses and stuff like that, because it's just like, well, what are they going to? They can't offer us like anything there, and they can't, offer like a client or something. There's nothing that they can do to like really fight us on that level other than like legislation or something like that. Lobbying, sure. They can do that. So like, and that definitely happens. So like, but yeah, I think we don't even think about it just because there's such a force, and they're so big. In the U.S., I think craft beer got to 10%, which was crazy to get that high. I might be wrong there with that number, but I'm pretty sure it got around or to around 10. And then,
Yeah.
but I think here we're still like 1%. It's just so small, and I'm not really sure we can ever get higher than that, just because it's like the challenges are real. So struggle is real. So I think we take what we can. Uh, and yeah, I think having this plan and these tied houses just helps us be able to do it. Having the beer garden, because it's not necessarily relying on consuming alcohol or consuming beer. Let's say, like, it's a family. Most of our places are family. Places you can come with your grandparents and with your kids and whoever. And if you're not drinking or you don't drink, there's options. And I think like that kind of helps a little bit. And the ambience, like you were talking about, the stuff you see in the photos and online, that definitely helps, because yeah, you might decide to come here not even thinking about the beer. You just want to stay at the hotel or go to the beer garden and enjoy.
Sure.
So I think we're a little bit, I guess, exempt from some of the issues that are happening in North America, especially right now with beer consumption, and I guess all over the world in some ways. It's happening everywhere. So I'm not going to say the storm can never get to us, but at least we have some ideas in place to kind of avoid a big issue if that does. But let's say the beer garden is just yeah, you have to come here and experience it for yourself, because it's just it will trap you for sure.
That's an absolute deal. And hearing that craft beer, artisanal beer might be like 0.5% of the market share in Mexico does make me think there
Yeah,
is still room to grow, which is exciting. And
yeah,
at its peak, craft beer in the U.S. Might have even exceeded 10%, and 10% out of
yeah,
100 likewise still means there is room to grow. And I'm thankful to the
to grow.
breweries that continue to push for it.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
one more point I just have to make, and you brought it up with your collabs, with your travel. I think Hercules has to be one of the hardest working breweries in the market, just with the extent of the
Mhm.
collaborations you do, the festivals you work. I'm almost done with my humble sea and considering getting another can. But
Nice.
and it came up at Fig Mountain for Lagerville last year. That was a Mexican style lager. I think it was brewed with hibiscus.
Mhm.
I believe you've
Yeah.
collaborated with Freem in Oregon. I don't know if you actually brewed a beer with Wild East in New York City, or maybe you invited them to kind of take the taps in Mexico with you, but there is definitely a partnership there on some level. I've seen you at Torst in New York City, which I have a love-hate relationship with that bar after working in beer in New York City, but well worth the
Right.
trip. And what else? You mentioned the Firestone Walker Invitational is coming up. You will be there. The Mikkeller Beer Celebration coming up for 2026. You will be there. You recently had a Frühlingsfest on site at the Almason. The German Spring Festival, so you're
Yeah,
clearly creating, again, like a destination, a reason, an
sure.
excuse, not that people need it, to get out and commune and drink in the space that you've provided with the beer that you've brewed. So I do think that, coupled with the sheer amount of 50 to 100 beers per year that you're producing,
Yeah,
is amazing, and just really an exemplary work ethic, my friend. And it shows, because
thanks.
Hercules is coming up more and more and more, not just in this conversation about lager beer, but to anyone I ask, as a fan, as a believer, as a supporter, as an enthusiast for craft beer. So you are known.
Yeah.
You are known, and we've gotten to know
No,
you a little bit better over the course of this conversation.
no, I appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words. Seriously, I mean, it is. I think getting noticed in a different country, especially Mexico, that we do have our fair share of great breweries down here. It's been arduous, and I think difficult, over the last few years, getting raw materials down here, exporting what we can to the U.S. in small amounts. Also, none of it's easy, but I'd say, yeah, like I said, we have a great team, and I'm still stoked. I'm still have to do like a health check every once in a while, or mental check on my where I'm at in beer, like, and I have to poke myself. I'm still stoked on it. I'm still
Yeah.
like, can't believe it. Cause I know so many people that I respect that kind of like, over the years, you just get burnt out, and it's
Yeah.
happened to me before too. So I'm really stoked to be, still be around, and, you know, let's say combining with my, you know, other brewers here in this country, and also in the States and other parts of the world too. So, yeah, it's just such a cool industry, and, yeah, let's keep going. Things are tough right now, I think, especially in the States, but I mean, I know a lot of people pushing through and giving it their all. So that also inspires me to keep going.
Yeah. Well said. I do want to know, just talking about all these collaborations and all these festivals, kind of how do you decide who you want to collab with? What festivals do you decide you want to work? And there's one more coming up that we just have to mention before kind of moving on to some
Yeah.
rapid fire
Yeah.
questions and the way I like to end every episode. But
Sure.
the MXPDX, Fiesta de la Cerveza, I feel like it started maybe in Portland, Oregon in 2025. It is about to happen in Juarez in Mexico this year, coming up in the end of April. And then it moves
Yeah.
back to Portland, Oregon in 2027, which is really
Yeah.
interesting. So tell us a little bit just about, how do you decide who do you want to collab with? What festivals do you want to work for the MXPDX festival? How do people join if they want to take part?
Okay, yeah, it's in Mexico City, in the neighborhood of, or I think it's Parque Juarez, Juarez Park, in
Hmm.
Mexico City. So
I see.
anyone could come. Anyone could come out. I think Saturday is sold out. That's what I heard. But Sunday is still available. I have a ton of friends and brewers coming down. Like the guys from Freem are coming down.
Cool.
This would be our second collab with them. Um, Natalie from Wayfinder is coming down, I think, too.
Oh,
Also,
still trying to get Natalie on this show. It will happen eventually. Eventually, our calendars will align.
she's a boss. She's cool. So she'll be down here. I'm pretty sure she collabed with somebody. I haven't been too privy to all the details, honestly. So I'm probably missing something. But I would say, there's like 10 collaborations that are going to be served, and, yeah, we're stoked on that, because every year they, like you said, they were doing it up in the States. So having it down here this year is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
think, side note, that's something that's just part of our DNA too, is like just knowing that, a lot of people can't travel, or don't have the means to, or they can, but they don't travel. So like, a lot of our, the beers we make, the culture we try to bring, which also is highly representative of Mexican culture, also in the culinary sense, and in the beer. Um, we try to bring in a lot of these other serving methods from Europe, like the side pool faucets, or like Holzfass German, like wooden serving vessels,
I love
let's
it.
say,
Yeah,
like for the Frühlingsfest,
yeah.
or cask beer. We have like a cask bar at the hotel. So,
I saw that as well. Again, it's
yeah.
truly something for everyone.
Yeah.
But for all of these festivals and all these I guess there's no shortage of breweries collaborating with breweries, and to the point of it might have been overkill in recent years. So I am just kind of curious, what makes a brewery collaboration, a festival?
Yeah.
How do you decide who you're going to collab with? What festivals you're going to work? What makes them like still compelling, still interesting for you? Is it the opportunity to kind of to be challenged or to learn something new, as you were saying earlier?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, it always comes from a good place, and
Yeah,
that's like super important for me, because it's like, I don't want to waste my time with people that have like ulterior motives or whatever. Like that. I want to be around people that, yeah, that are cool, respect beer, listen to cool music, and that. But in the end, like, we almost always, you know, if we're given an opportunity to collab with anyone, we will do it. And like, in a few weeks, I'm going to Texas, for, my wife's, nephew's graduation. And while I'm there, we're going to run over to Austin, or I'm going to run over to Austin and do a collab with Meanwhile. So
Nice.
there's a lot of stuff like that too that's been in the works. Like we've talked with so many people about collabing, and then like if it just so happens like one of us will be somewhere near there, we'll just do it. Um, I think it's just about synergy and like spontaneity. Also, I love when we like are on the brew day. I know the brewers, at least here, hate it because but I love if like somebody we're having lunch and a beer or whatever, and somebody comes up with hey, why don't we use Motueka because of this and this and this, like on the hot side, like let's do it. Like let's. I love it when it's like I know like breweries like Sierra Nevada, they might do one or two collabs a year, and it's really well thought out. And like I love being open and free and spontaneous with those things, and I think it makes for cool stories too. And the same for the festivals. The festivals. We used to do a lot more. I think now maybe we're a little more selective just because of time. We're all really busy here in the plant, so there's not a lot of time to always get away. But
Sure.
yeah, I think it's just like you see in many cases over and over again. And like you said, everyone's 2 or 3 degrees from of separation away from each other. As my friend Tobias at Weinstefan in Germany always says that the beer and craft beer is like a small village, and we all just kind of know each other. And I always identify with that. So like, I don't know if like it's just about making the connections, and maybe you're at hop harvest, or maybe you're at a festival and you run into somebody else, or you're doing a collab and somebody else tags along from another brewery, which has happened too, and then they say like, hey, I think this is cool, we should do something too. And next thing you know, I don't know, I think it's fun to have that openness, and ability to do it. And having the hotel here also helps to host people and show people a good time. I
Sure.
think we have some advantages here to collab and show people what we're about. And yeah, just about uh, we're all in the same fight, trying to make good beer and trying to learn from each other, and trying to have some beers and listen to some heavy metal. And what else?
I mean, so okay, well, that is the perfect segue to my next question. And like I said, we're going to move to kind of a lightning round of something I like to ask everyone before we go. But real quick, because this is just for you. I want to know, where do you consider home now since making the move to Mexico? Do you feel like you're there to stay? But like it's been like Mexico, the country, the people have obviously been such a central figure in this
Yeah.
conversation. You've talked about your family. I wonder if there's
Hmm.
any internal conflict between your wife working for Constellation and you for the artisanal brand.
Sure.
But
No, she's
above
gone.
all,
She's gone now, but yeah, no, she's not working. So she's willing to talk as much trash as necessary, I
as
guess. But
you, I love it.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah,
Well, it saved your marriage. And to you and to your family, I do want to know, because you are obviously you're well traveled between all the collab beers, the festivals you do, and kind of the worldly outlook to life you've expressed. Do you feel like Hercules in Mexico is this home to stay? Where do you feel is home now as an American from Florida?
yeah, yeah. I think um, more than anything, it's hard to go back to the U.S. just because of the weather. Like we have, I mean, I'm from like yeah, coming from Florida. I think it's we're talking about just insane humidity and yeah, I think it's a hard place to live. I think you get used to it, but I don't know if I could do that again, living
Yeah.
in this climate, which is just like ideal. Like I live in Mexico City right now, even though the plant's in Querétaro, so I'm in
Wow.
between the two every week. But the weather, because the elevation is just kind of like the same all year round. It's just nice. So
Hmm.
um, that's one factor. I think I love Mexico, and I think the food, the people, everything down here are great. I've been here down here long enough to there's pros and cons like living anywhere, but I would
Sure.
say I'm still stoked on it. Still enjoy very much being a part of the brewing industry also down here. So like I don't know that there's like an escape plan or anything. Right now it's year by year, day by day, whatever. But right now I'm still 10 years in, and I'm pretty excited just to still be down here and be a part of it.
Yeah.
This project's still fun too, so
Yeah.
it's good
Well,
times.
I'm really happy you found a sense of place in Mexico, and I'm really happy that you continue to collaborate with breweries in the U.S. So keep doing it, and I will keep seeking it out. That I promise, my
Cool.
friend. Okay. So as we move, wrapping this up, I do want to know about brew house music. What do you like to listen to while you're brewing? And this started with Chris at Fig Mountain. And it's a
Oh, cool.
selfish question because it inspires me, and I've been listening to Meshuggah ever since. So tell me just like
Yeah.
what you like to listen to while you're brewing. How does it inform? How does it inspire?
Yeah, I mean, we're all over the place. Like, we do have a few metalheads on the team, so there is a lot of yeah. There's some thrash. There's some like I don't know, like old school new wave, British heavy metal type stuff. There's some hair metal days too. Like, not gonna lie, which are which are fun.
Fun.
Something it's typically not like too crazy. Like though we do um, Blood Incantation's new album, we play a lot of that.
Excellent.
It's more on the like on the death side, obviously. Some old school death metal occasionally, like I don't know, Possessed or Death or any of the '80s stuff. Coming from Florida, that's always a must.
Yeah.
And then a lot of like stoner rock metal, like I don't know, Wand or Ruby the Hatchet. I mean, there's a bunch of bands in there.
Wow.
And then we just like play Michael Jackson sometimes, and we play like I don't know, like we play a lot of '80s, like '70s and '80s, pop music, everything from Steely Dan to I don't know, you name it, Kenny Loggins or whatever, just all over the place, and a little bit of hip hop in there sometimes too. So I'm not always in charge of the radio. Most of the time, I'm not actually, but
I will say fun and fitting and represents the sheer diversity of the 50 to 100 beers you brew a year. And I love it that you know Ruby the Hatchet. That's excellent.
yeah,
Very metal.
yeah, great band.
Okay. Non-alcoholic beer, is that part of what you
Mm-hmm.
offer? I am curious here just because the rise, the volume, the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, the dialogue around non-alcoholic beer has increased
Yeah.
substantially in the United States since COVID and the pandemic. There's been leaps and bounds in quality and diversity in that category now. I'm just curious if you offer it, but also is it part of like kind of like a Mexican beer ritual? Like, does non-alcoholic beer have a
Mm-hmm.
place in Mexican culture that you see? Just tell me a little bit about what you think about non-alcoholic beer here and now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm honestly not sure like how it's viewed here. Some of the brands that do have like what do you call it? Like a 0-0 program. Like let's
Yeah.
say Corona has Corona Zero now, and you have
Yeah.
like Estrella from Spain that does have like a zero beer. Like some of those beers you'll see as options. Heineken Zero also too. Um, I don't know enough data on how they're doing, but I do know there's some demand for it, I guess. We've over the years, just focused and doubled down on session beers, even some down to the 2.5% range,
Nice.
for those options, and I'm not going to say we're never going to do it. I just think, you know, still making beer, alcoholic beer, let's say. It's weird you have to say alcoholic beer, but like, cause it's just like it's like a part of what beer is, I think. But I think, a lot of I'm generalizing and yeah, I'm generalizing hardcore right now, but I would say like a lot of the breweries that you see doing NA type beers, not all of them, but a lot of them are trying to fill tank space, and I get that totally. Like
Sure.
right now, we're fortunately still in a place where we're not desperate to fill tanks, and every beer we can make, we can sell in a way. So like there isn't like that necessity. I think that's part of the driving factor in the NA market, at least in the craft scene, and with the big guys too, is that trying to find other avenues to sell products. And I totally get it and understand there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not something that we've seen like a huge necessity for. Like, I think when you come to the beer garden, most people are drinking beers, and it's fine. We have had a few clients or customers mention it'd be cool if you had something. I think for us, just hasn't been on our radar as of yet. But who knows? Probably things can change, and they can change rapidly. So maybe it'll be different in a year.
It's interesting. I mean, I work a lot of Mexican colleagues on the distributor side, who are among the hardest working of any, and that's what we've been talking about. That's a whole different game when you're competing for shelf space on a national scale. But a lot of them just love to kind of joke about how them and their Mexican friends don't even understand or know or relate to non-alcoholic beer, and I do really appreciate that you are saying a beer kind of 4% and under 4%, give or take, like is a part of this conversation, that it doesn't necessarily have to be all or nothing. And I agree. And working in the beer industry, I appreciate small beers with big character more and more and more.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think I've had some really good ones. I'm not in your target market, Adam, unfortunately, because like if I'm not drinking beer, I just drink water or whatever. But I have done the 1-in-1 thing. Like I know, like where I have done that, and it is cool. Like, and if you're driving, there's a huge, I would say, motivation to have those products. And I have a lot of sober friends that are very thankful and grateful that there are products out there that they can still enjoy and not be in the alcohol space, let's say, still enjoy hops. So really cool. I'm all for it, and it's actually, side note, it is something that I think about all the time, like to how would we do it and how could we because I think it is a very, very challenging thing to get into, making a really flavorful NA beer or 0.0 beer or whatever, I think that's not the easiest thing on the planet. So making it stable. So props to the guys that are doing it well.
I mean, I think if you put your mind to it, you and Hercules could do it or anything, but again, what you are doing now, concentrating, like leading with lagers, offering beers that people can have more than one of, I think that scratches a similar itch. So more power to you. We're seeing more celebrity lagers and celebrity partnerships around non-alcoholic beer than ever.
For sure.
Non-alcoholic and not. Something people typically like to cite that seems like a really authentic kind of partnership and collab is the Kelsey brothers with Garage Beer. Like you can see them drinking it. You see the marketing as a reflection of their personalities. For you, I would just love to know, like outside of collaborating with breweries and not necessarily like a celebrity, but who would it be if Hercules decided they wanted to partner and collaborate with like a public figure? And, this can be speaking to the brand or just from you personally. Who would you like to work with in that respect?
Oh man, that's a super tough question. Man, there's so many. I said Michael Jackson, but obviously that might be a bit difficult.
I mean, there's a new biopic coming out. Maybe it needs a movie, but maybe it needs a beer. But
I don't know. Like, I saw Stone Cold had a beer. I thought that was pretty cool. That I think
that's from El Segundo.
El Segundo was doing. I said, man, I was kind of jealous when that came out. And being from Florida, there's just so many wrestlers that like it's some like abysmal, crazy percentage, or not abysmal, but it's just a crazy percentage of wrestlers that come from Florida. So maybe something there. Man, I have to think. Man, I wish I was prepared for this because I know later I'm gonna think like, why didn't you say this? But
I'll put it in the I'll put it in the notes when we go live. But I think wrestling, I mean, and being from Florida, I love the connection and God,
Yeah.
honestly, yeah, I'm sure there's a number of different examples we could cite here, but most wrestlers outside of the ones that, everyone knows their name, really just do it because they love it. And it can be a thankless, moneyless profession. And that is something that brewers and craft brewers in
Yeah,
particular are often up against. It sounds a little crazy, but when I watched like the Wrestlers doc on Netflix, I was like, wow, there's a really interesting parallel here. And it's not just wrestling and it's not just beer and it could be music or anything else, but there's something so compelling about people doing what they love without having to explain or justify it. And it's not necessarily for the money or the recognition.
for sure. Yeah, I think we did some notable collabs that I was able to be a part of. Is the skate park of Tampa. We did a few years collab there because they have like the Tampa Pro and the Tampa Am every year. We did do a few collabs with them. We did a collab with Obituary when I was
Oh,
still in Florida. Actually, no, that was right after I left, but I kind of had a hand in the recipe, I think.
yeah.
And then who else? I'm trying to think. But yeah, we actually talked with Exodus a little bit, but that never came to fruition. We did
Well,
a municipal waste beer one time because we're good friends with those guys.
oh, shout out to Dave Whitty,
Yeah,
the ultimate cheerleader for beer and metal. So, yeah, maybe
yeah,
it's
man.
time to pick those conversations with Exodus or whoever else back up. I love it. Most metal.
Yeah, I would redo my celebrity. I'll just choose Dave Whitty. We'll just put it
Perfect.
there. Like,
Perfect. I don't
yeah,
think it'll be hard to get Municipal Waste down to Mexico City for a series of shows, and maybe we can see a collab out of Hercules.
we're
Yeah,
trying
hell
to get
yeah.
him to come play here. We've been talking with. Or I've been emailing there because you know how bigger bands are, and he's just like, yeah, write the not the promoter, the manager, managing company or whatever. But I'm like, man, we had we've had a couple like hard rock slash metal concerts here, but that's definitely one that I'd love to bring down. Is just have
Ah.
those guys come down and hang out because yeah, they're craft beer guys. So
So, Dave Whitty, if you're listening, come on to No Life to Lager for that matter, but I'd love to see a collab with Hercules and a show at the hotel
that'd be
and the
sick. Yeah.
venue. Um, Wrapping up here, last couple questions.
Yeah.
Decoction mashing, this is never fair, but I always love to ask people in a single word, yes or no, and in a single sentence, why or why not. Do you employ decoction mashing at Hercules?
Yes, but very selectively. You know, like I think with Czech style pale lager, and any Czech lager, I'd say it is like in a way an ingredient. It has to
Yeah,
be there, and the
yeah,
Czechs would tell you the same. Uh, with German Weissbier, which is obviously not lager, it's there. We always do that too. Um, but with other lagers, especially like the softer, more delicate, like Helles and stuff like that, I know we have plenty of friends like Ashley from Bierstadt or yeah, others that will completely disagree with that. But
mm,
we just have found that the shelf life is much more. Yeah, we give the beer more life if we just don't beat the crap out of it. And that's kind of what decoction is doing. But
that's really
so you're building
interesting.
flavor. Yeah, you're building flavor, and decoction definitely has a flavor, but at the same time you're um, oxidizing some of those antioxidants that exist in the beer post package. So
Yeah,
it is, hot side aeration is real. I hate to break it to everyone, but um, yeah,
that
I
is
think that's why you see so many like Bavarian breweries, backing off on decoction. Also energy costs too, but um, if you drink one of our Czech lagers, you'll definitely taste the decoction.
yeah. Um, Man, for being 22 episodes in, I haven't heard yet that decoction potentially decreases shelf life. So, really
Yeah,
interesting note, heating up the ongoing debate to decoct or not. But I also appreciate that you say it's increased flavor and just kind of like essentially another ingredient for something like Czech pills. And
yeah, and check
I,
out. I encourage everyone to check out also. Tobias. I mentioned him earlier from Weinstefan. Weinstefan did some studies. I think they worked with Budvar on this, or I might be totally wrong, but they were on few podcasts, and they did some talks about it and about all the shelf life studies, triangle testing, everything on, because they have two Helles. I don't know if everyone knows that, but one Helles is decocted in the bottle, the original Helles, and then they have a Helles that is in the can that goes out to export in the U.S. And the reason why they don't decoct that one is because they were seeing a reduction in shelf life. So, like, just throwing that out there. There's some data behind it now.
Very interesting. Well, one more shout out to Humble Sea. I know they are often known for like single decoction with their beers and natural carbonation, and everything I've had from them is good, including the Luis Raceway here and now, which I'm about to have another can as soon as we wrap up. So I don't think this beer was decocted, correct?
No, I think we opted not to on this one.
Makes sense.
But they do decoct a lot. And there's also breweries that's why I was saying earlier about collabs and being able to join minds with someone for a day in a way, like where you can kind of pick their brains about a lot of stuff. Because again, I love to be proven wrong, and I love when someone that decocts brings a beer and like maybe it's not super fresh, but it tastes super fresh, and I say, wow, this is blowing my mind right now. I love that part of brewing where, because we can all do the same thing, or we can all do it in different ways, and we can all come up with different results. I think you could give everyone your process, and everyone's going to have a slightly different beer. So the ones that can do it and are proud of it, man, I'm all for it. So yeah. Team decoction for the guys that can do it and do it well, and guys and girls, I say. But here we just found some other underlying, not underlying, some other results that I would say, like, yeah, it's cool. It's a cool thing to have in the toolbox. It is, for real. Yeah. Maybe we don't use it all the time.
Yeah. All right. Very well said. And as we wrap up, last question, and this is for both, just speaking to Mexicans and to your audience south of the border, talking to Americans that might be considering a trip to visit Hercules. Just what do we say to someone who is 21, who's on that trip for the first time? What do we say to someone who's 101 and taking that trip for the last time? What beer do they want to drink first and last and foremost? What do you want to say to the beer drinkers out there? What do you want to say about Hercules before we go?
Yeah, so like you said, doesn't matter age. You come down. I think the beers I gravitate towards are Caballo Blanco, which was our first like World Beer Cup medal that we won here. That on a cask is like, for me, it's one of our top experiences. Super Lager, which is like our I would say Japanese inspired rice lager, but just heavily hopped. I would say that's a second place. And then Republica after that. Plenty of food down here. I would say try everything that you can.
Yeah.
And eat a lot so you can drink a lot. I think it's a very unique experience. We're in a place. I think that people have, internationally, people have ideas about Mexico. Of course, Mexico City tourism has grown a lot in the last decade or decade and a half. But I think, a lot of people just think of the beaches, and there's so much more here. This whole region, we're in the Bajío region. So you just have access to all these small, cool towns, like all with their own identities and their own cuisine, their own ways of thinking, or sometimes their own dialects, the way they might speak or say things. So the message would be: come down, come for the beer, come for Hercules, but stay for the rest. Mexico has a lot to offer. So we're down. If anyone writes me, I try. We don't give. We do give tours now, but as a company. But if anyone ever writes us or reaches out specifically, because of a podcast like this, we'll try to give them a little extra attention and show them around personally. So
yeah,
everybody come down. Love to have you guys.
I love it, and I appreciate that you're inviting people to come and eat and drink and celebrate. And I think, again, I mean, I've definitely learned a lot in the course of this conversation. And you're challenging this idea of, well, first and foremost, like what you just said, there's so much more to Mexico than like just Cancun, for example. And there's
Sure.
so much more to Mexican lager, you know, or what might be perceived as like kind of macro, not even Mexican lager in a can.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's to more. Here's to eating and drinking and celebrating, and I hope we get to do it together at some point. So, if
Be
you
awesome.
like what you, yeah, cheers, my friend.
Cheers, man.
If you like what you're hearing, I will say yes, like, subscribe, follow No Life Till Lager. Help us hit the road, help us cross the border and make a better kind of beer show. And to you, Josh, to Compañia Cervecera Hércules, thank you so very much for joining this show in the here and now and giving me a moment. So until we get to where we are going, I will say good night and good lager. My glass is empty, so I'm going for a refill. Josh, Hercules, Humble Sea, thank you all so very much. Cheers.
Party.
No life till